Okay, we're back. He's back. He came back. It's like my grandfather always used to say, it's all good and well to get an invitation, but when you get invited back again, then you know you did it right. So clearly you did it right, dude. Welcome, Ryan. It's good to see
Thanks,
you,
man. I'm happy to hang out anytime that I'm not bottle feeding or trading. So,
So
but I have an open
when we first had you on, you obviously were kind of like preempting the arrival of your little one, and that's happened. And I'd love to, like, I have to ask you, so how was it before in terms of your perspective versus the way that things are now? Like, yeah.
It's so I mean, there are some people that don't want to have children. And before we had kids, you hear like different people's opinions on having children. You have your own. I always wanted children. My wife always did, which is something you have to find out right away. If you're going to spend your life with someone, if your intent is to like marry someone, be with them. So we're always in the same boat in that regard. And before having our daughter, before you have kids, you think like, because you hear up until having children that, you're going to love them more than you've loved anything in your entire life. So you think of the things that you love in your life. Maybe it's like a dog or your parents or your brother, or your sister, or best friends. And you think in those terms, and then you try to think, okay, like, I'll love my child more than that. Like that makes sense. But then when my daughter was born, when your child was born, you just realize like you didn't even have the faintest idea of how much you could love anything, someone, anything. You had no idea. It's like light years from you even comprehending it before having a child. And then after, it's amazing, man. Every single day is like this period. So my daughter's 4 months old. So this period, I mean, I guess like all periods until they hate you, until they're like 12 years old and beyond.
But even when they hate you, dude, it doesn't change. I promise.
I can imagine, but like right now, it's like every single day is something wonderful and new because they're making, and it's like silly stuff that other people probably would get sick of hearing, right?
Yeah.
And there's one thing is true, like when you don't have children, other kids crying bugs you. When you have a child and your kid cries, it doesn't even touch the same part of you. Like you're just like, you're so enamored in love that it doesn't even affect you. But every day is something new, like a new word, not a new word because she's not talking yet, but she's trying to make noises and communicate. And so there's something new every day. Like a new noise will like warm your heart, like her laughing. I mean, her trying to, it's her trying to communicate in her own way. So it's absolutely been like, it's completely life-changing, right? But you've heard it, the cliches are all true, but you just, the cliches are true. And then on top of that, you don't have any idea of how big those things are, how big of an impact it'll have on your life. Like you can't wrap your head around it until you have a child. And for people that don't want to have kids, I completely understand. But there is something, the part of me that feels like after having them, it's like, oh no, this is like kind of, I don't want to go too far into this, but it's like kind of what life is all about, not for everybody, but for me, I was like, wow, I have everything I ever wanted in life. And this is, if I didn't have this, I would have been missing out completely, because this is like peak living. So it's been amazing.
It's the hardest and it's the easiest and it's the most fulfilling thing you'll ever do. It's like it's hard as well, there's obviously all of that wonderful stuff that does give meaning to it all, because I think that's ultimately what it is. It's like, I mean, and we could get quite philosophical about it, is like, like what is the meaning of life? And at the end of the day, I think from my perspective, I think the meaning of life is to be happy. And I think if you do have a relationship with somebody else or something, or it doesn't have to be about you, and if you can find that happiness in that aspect, then you've kind of like, you've won the game, like there's like the saying, he who dies with the most toys wins, but actually it's he who's the happiest is the one who wins.
And like you said, it is hard though. It's
hard,
not,
dude. No, it's
but
not easy.
On the same note, like, so one thing you obviously, you hear is like you lose sleep, right? Because they don't have a normal sleep schedule. God bless, my daughter has an amazing sleep schedule, but that's for now. Like, they're always changing. Never get too comfortable in one stage that they're in. But you're not going to have the same comfortable, like, waking up. I was never a person who was like waking up late either way, but staying up late. But you're going to be more tired than you probably have ever been. But that love, and I remember my own mom telling me this when I was a kid. She's like, you don't understand. Like, that love gives you an adrenaline rush, and you just kind of power through that shit, you know? So it is really hard, but you know, you love something so much that it just, you become secondary in every aspect, you know? So
Definitely. So how did you, so in terms of the change that went down, obviously talking shop and coming back to, you know, what it is that you do on a daily basis, how did things change, you know, in terms of your schedule? Because I know that, I mean, we've obviously chatted before, and you quite regimented in the way that you approach things, like on a day-to-day basis. How did you change things, and how did you adjust, particularly with the trading side of things?
so I'll admit, like, going into it, I thought it was going to be a much bigger change. I thought it was going to
Okay.
require a lot more juggling. But at the end of the day, like, I'm blessed that I've been on my own now for years. My wife is
Mm,
a stay-at-home mom. Um, and you know, because of that, it's actually, it hasn't been that difficult to acclimate. One thing that I do is, obviously, you know, so we have a routine in our house, and I'm the first to get up. Um, and you know, I feed my daughter first thing in the morning. I just wake up a little bit earlier than I was waking up. Like, I add an extra hour to my day. So I
mm,
wake up that extra hour, you know, I'm up at either, you know, usually most of the times around 5 a.m. I spend like an hour with my daughter. No work, no looking at the market, nothing like that. Just kind of taking that moment in. Um, and then when the market opens, I'm at the desk. And because we're home, because my wife is home, my daughter is literally on the other side of the door, you know. Um, our living room is outside of my office, and I will just all day kind of take breaks, walk out there, lay down with her for 5 minutes, play on the floor. And it hasn't been like any kind of shock to my life whatsoever. And I
mm.
realize, like, that is something that I'm super grateful for, you know. Not a lot of people have that, I guess, that luxury. I One thing that I think of constantly, and I'm like, wow, this is a big motivator, honestly, is I see, like, you know, my neighbors, for example. It's a really cool situation because the people that live across the street from us, the people that live next to us, one of them's a pro golfer. They just had kids the same exact week that we had our daughter, and they're all girls. So it's going to be an awesome neighborhood to grow up in, ideally.
Yeah,
Um, but I see them go to work, and I think, like, God, I would fucking hate. Excuse my language. You
yeah,
know me by now. Like,
yeah, yeah.
um, I would hate to have to leave every day and be kind of like a visitor to my child, who is either being raised by, you know, my wife, who's home all the time, or a babysitter or a
Yeah.
relative. And that's like the reality for a lot of people. So I'm really grateful. And if anything, I spend time with her, and I get back to work, and I make sure that I'm always in a position to have this kind of situation, which I'm super grateful for. So it
Mm,
hasn't been a struggle, but she's 4 months old. She's not able to, like, run around yet, which would obviously be a time when I'm going to be a little bit more, uh, my hands are going to be full, right? You know, I have to keep her out of
mm.
things, and make sure she's not getting herself into trouble. And it'll be a lot more intensive, I'm sure.
I mean, one of the things that we both fortunate in that regard, in that kind of like a decision was made as well in our home as well. When we had kids, it was kind of like, well, how are we going to do this? You know, like my wife was like super successful. She managed a newsroom, like she was at the top of her game, and it was kind of like, what are we going to do, like from a kid's perspective? So we traveled. So we did like 2 years, went surfing, did all of that, got it out of our system. Like we went snowboarding for a season, and it was kind of like, we got to go and do it again. And we went again, and we did a second winter in Whistler, and it was like, okay, cool, we've done it. And then we made the decision, let's have kids. But it was like, I was going to work, she was going to stay at home. And it wasn't like kind of like this like patriarchal thing. It was like, well, this will be the best route to take. And I think our kids, in terms of where they're at the moment, I think there's been a huge benefit from that perspective. I mean, they give you a harder time. They're more intellectually in tune. They argue way better than other kids do. But that's because we took that time out, you know, and we kind of like put the work in, and it was like, okay, well, what do we want from our kids? We want self-confidence. We want critical thinking. We want discernment. We want appreciation. All of that, like the good stuff that I would imagine people should have. But then it comes with, you know, like it comes with the trouble, and it comes with a bit of pain. But I think at the end of the day, if the parents are at home, and I remember actually Daniel said to you, no, you must get this, you must like, they must sleep on their own, and it like teaches them self-sufficiency. And I wanted to get in on that conversation. Remember that? Do you remember that, dude?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to get stuck in. I'm like, no, bro, that's not necessarily the way that it works. You know, that comes later. You know,
yeah. And I'm not willing to, like, I mean, as far as my existence goes right now, the most important thing in my life right now is my daughter, and her making sure that, you know, rather making sure that she grows up in a house that always has a dad that is there for her for anything she needs, you know, providing not financially, but just love, in terms of love.
Yeah.
But and being available to her every need, especially at this age, you know, like, there's different schools of thought and philosophies on how you should raise your children. I respect how people go about their own business. But for me, like, my wife will even say, like, our daughter's still in our bedroom. I don't want to give her up right away. I don't want her to be in her own room. Like, I want her to be close. And maybe it's like, I'm a bit obsessive about it. Like, I love being close to my daughter. You know, I'm absolutely in love with my daughter. I want to make sure that, you know, some people are sleep training their children right now, and I'm like, I don't want to make my daughter cry herself to sleep. Like, every time she cries, I'm like up, holding her, you know, trying to make her feel better. And that's what makes me feel comfortable. And I feel like that's the right thing for me as far as being a parent. And I think that there's like evidence of that being a better idea, period. Just in terms of like how they develop and how they, yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because it's not my wheelhouse, but I think the data kind of supports it, that you don't want to treat them like people sort of kennel their dogs and treat their dogs, right? I mean, it's obvious, it's a no-brainer. So
I'm with you on that, and I have older kids, and I can tell you right now that I believe that our kids are in tune, and I think they're better off, you know. And it's sure, I'm going to be biased, but I see how they interact and how they engage with the world. And I think it's one of the reasons why is because we never approached it from that perspective. We approached it the exact same way that you did. And I just think it's a benefit. So let's see, dude. I mean, it's last question on the kids front. Are you guys keen to have another? Or is it too soon?
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
Well, it's like, you don't want to, I mean, like, you don't want to have it. It's how I feel. Like, we want a little bit of space, right? At least a year. One, I'm sure my wife wants to get herself back to just have a year of like reprieve and to not, you know, to be able to have wine and enjoy herself for another year. Cause that's, I mean, God bless, you know, our wives, the women who carry children. That's not our burden to carry, literally. And that is not something that I'm sure she wants to do right away. And then also, I honestly, like, I don't know if I would, I want to be solely focused on my firstborn right now. Like, I would feel like it would be, you know, stretching a little bit to have two so close. I would answer the call, right? I would rise to the occasion and just have to, I guess, drink twice as much coffee. Because there was no way, like, now knowing how I feel about my daughter, my next one, I'm not going to like dilute the love and affection. Right. So it just means that I'm going to have to, you know, charge my batteries a little bit better. But yeah, ideally in like at least a year from now, I'm like a 2 to 3 children person. That sounds ridiculous because it's like a lottery, right? Like, maybe next time 4 come out at the same time.
So I think it's, you know what it is, Ryan? It's the space between the two. I think that a good space is between 18 months to 3 years. Like anything, because it's kind of like, because there's the way that I see it is it's like you're in the trenches, you know, trenches are nappies and all that kind of stuff. And then you want to do them both at the same period of time or in the same window. And if you do that, then it's a lot easier. And then also they get to hang out together. It's quite a big thing as well. Like,
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's like what creates kind of like the extension of the love, the dynamic, also the intellectualization around like the oldest one's doing mathematics or whatever it is, and then that then translates into passing it down. The frustration of me having to do it first, but then having the opportunity to kind of like teach it. It's pretty cool. That's a really cool dynamic. And then like we're a big surfing family, so it's like they're in that window where they're learning at the same time, or you know, and then you kind of like get woken up on a Saturday morning and it's either like soccer or let's go surfing, you know. And it's
That's
like
awesome.
So no, dude, it's sick. You'll see when you start doing that. And then it's like, you know, whether it's golf or whatever it might be, it's kind of like, what is life? Life is all about being happy. And if you are doing the cool shit that makes you happy with your kids, dude, slap a 10x on that and enjoy the ride, you know.
Right.
Like that's all it is, really. And then you hope that they're not like, you know, complete lunatics. But I think if you do a good job early on, I don't think you're going to worry about that. So how I'm going to ask you one of those Twitter things. So how's your market going? You know, how's the trading going? You've been very active on Twitter. You've put out some fucking real gems the last 2 months, I think. Like, you've made some great calls. I mean, I don't even think you've realized that you've made them. You're just kind of like checking things out, making the calls, and you know, you never come back and like kind of like raise your flag like all these fucking clowns do and say, "Look, I told you." You're just like making these calls, and you seem to be really in tune.
At the end of the day, like it's like you could just easily cherry pick stuff all day if you wanted to. And I mean, I want to be right half of the time. When I'm wrong, I change my mind really fast, and that's it. Like I'm not here. I mean, if that comes with age too. Like I feel like most of the people on Twitter are. I always have felt like this, like they're in their early 20s, but then you do a poll and you realize like half your followers are in their 30s and 40s too, and then you're like, okay, you just never grew up. Like, but yeah, my trading's going really well. Like that's another thing, you know. After she was born, I definitely, I think I like refined my focus a little bit, because there is that now like break that I throw in my day constantly, you know, those little breaks throughout the day, which is really important because otherwise this market is so easy because it's 24/7, but even it's 24/7, but it's becoming more like 24/5. Like the market has definitely changed over the last 6 months to become more like traditional markets in a sense. My trading's been going really well. Like I know my place in the market. I know where my attention is best spent. Like all this meme coin crap. I don't want to disparage it because it's crap to me, but someone is making a killing. But that's just not my forte. Like my edge is not in identifying, you know, the next 10x, 100x. I can't even hold for a 10x. Like I can't hold past a 5x. Excuse me. You know, it's not. I have a tendency to just cut positions way early. So I would never even be good or suitable in that particular area of the market because I would constantly kneecap myself. But I've been trading BTC. I've been trading ETH. I've taken a few alt trades. Been spending a lot more time trading traditional markets as well, trading options in legacy and trading the NQ and the ES. I have no complaints. Like it's the time of the year, honestly, when I back off anyway. Like for anyone who doesn't believe in seasonality and thinks it's a meme, it probably was less significant in this market, of course, more than any other, because this market wasn't very correlated and was way more disconnected until the last year or so. So if you look like it historically, if you look in the past, like maybe it doesn't look like sell May and go away is a real thing. And then, you know, if you look at one part of the sample in 2020, it's like, okay, of course, markets ripped during that summer because they helicopter injected a ton of money into the system and people in most countries weren't even allowed to go do anything. You know, they were in lockdown. So the casino was open all the time. But yeah, I mean, my trading's going really well. Like I said, I back off. We just booked 2 vacations. Sell Mango away. It's been accurate since 1962. And it's not like it means that markets, well, one, markets tend to, into the end of the year, perform way worse than they did in the beginning of the year. And two, it's just a matter of like liquidity and volumes. Like literally after tax season, there's obvious reasons why money comes out of the market to pay taxes. Take some time for that money to find its way back into the market. And then anyone who does well is vacationing in the Hamptons, tongue in cheek kind of thing. But people who spend all their time at desks and in office are going on vacation and living their lives, hopefully, instead of focusing on markets. So it just becomes a area that I don't think that I want to spend too much attention in.
The thing is that you do have the flexibility and the ability to almost like, distance yourself from the whole experience, because what happens is that, and it's what I was saying to you at the beginning of our call before we went on to record, is that I think the market right now definitely does come with a myriad of traps, and I think the traps might be almost like this uncharted territory, particularly with crypto. And you said it. There's a definite correlation now. We obviously, I mean, you've said it for months. Like, guys, you do realize that you actually are trading the S&P. It's like that's what you're doing. You're not trading Bitcoin. And people were kind of like, maybe Cantering Clark's like lost the plot here a little bit, but actually you've been right the whole time. And how do you now navigate a market that has gone 24/5? And the only way to do it is to look at the historical significance, like you said. And I think a lot of the crypto crew haven't quite cottoned onto it. They make fun of it. They call it a meme, but that's exactly what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of the stuff that, you're seeing, hopefully people transition and learn, like being in crypto Twitter is you're in sort of a school system for people that are learning markets from, the beginning of starting to use like Elliott wave and on, right? I mean, you're watching in real time, people start to realize like, oh, I guess this Fed, I guess FOMC matters. I guess these, non-farm payrolls matter now because they affect legacy markets. And you had a lot of people that were kind of discounting this stuff like it's not significant. And, it's significant because it affects legacy and we're correlated to legacy. There's been like breaks in the correlation. There's been more idiosyncratic behavior. This brief period where looked like BTC was following gold. I think a lot of this stuff is honestly because it's a young market. These correlations are enforced manually. They're either enforced by, retail traders following along or fast money hedge funds trading on behalf of equity indices or trading on behalf of that narrative. But the rule has been for the last like year plus 2 years almost that we are correlated to legacy, sort of like a tech stock. And yeah, there's been periods where, in the last month, the S&P continued to march up and BTC was flatlined and it didn't have that same upside capture. And then when S&P drops, though, you could see that, well, it's been on and off. The point is it's been on and off recently. So there's some merit to saying that the correlation has somewhat weakened, but I think that those periods are like few and far in between. You shouldn't expect that that's going to continue into the future. I would anticipate, honestly, that the more crypto becomes ingrained with legacy markets, the more correlated it'll become, and these correlations will only strengthen. And that's been my experience so far. It seems like it's playing out.
Why do you think okay, so let's look at what's transpired over the last 8-9 years. I think, is it fair to say that we've done the switch in the last 12 months, last 18 months, the last 6 months? When did you think that happened, and why do you think it happened? Where we were as a crypto entity, it was like this own vibrant, like insane thing. It still is insane because it's like theoretically 24/7, but it's correlated. What do you think has changed?
I mean, just the size of it, honestly. It's a really small market still, so it's not like you could lean on this argument too much. I mean, the size of the entire crypto market cap is the size of, Microsoft, or I don't remember what the market cap of Microsoft or Apple is, but the point is it's one stock in the S&P, maybe two.
Yeah.
Years ago it was really small. So it was so small and insignificant. There was no one really trading this market besides obviously the diehards, the retail people. And now we've had a lot more cross-pollination between like Tradfi funds, Tradfi traders. You know, a lot of major players came into this market over the last 2 years. I think it's like from March 2020 on, honestly, that's been more obvious. And again, that'll only increase, that'll only grow. Throughout all like the periods of FUD when the market's melting down, you're also seeing like developments about Fidelity and, you know, now Coinbase starting their more institutional geared futures exchange. The CME is still listing, you know, it listed BTC, now has ETH futures. Those are not that new, but more importantly, it has the micros now. So micro BTC, micro ETH. I think we were just small enough back then to where you were able to get away with not being connected to global markets. And now it's a different story. And also BTC has that flexibility where it's, you know, now it's being called sort of a credit default swap. You know, it was digital gold. It was a play on tech. So it has that sort of malleability. You know, I think, again, I think that everything in the past is in the past, and those behaviors are not really things you could extrapolate too much into the future. And even if, honestly, even if you go back to like 2017, 2018, it's not like Bitcoin and crypto weren't correlated to overall levels of liquidity in global markets. You know, it's not like the S&P was moving down and crypto was moving up. It was kind of like there was a broad correlation, and crypto was just trading like other risk assets further out the risk curve, right? And they behaving as they do, which is overthrowing to the upside, overthrowing to the downside. Obviously, I'm not going to say it's in the same category. Like BTC is in a different category to me than alts are. But right now in the market, you're seeing like internally a lot of money moved out of the majors, the larger alts, to now further out our risk curve in this market alone into the meme coins. And this is like, for me, it's not a really good sign to see. Though it did happen in 2020, DeFi summer, it was kind of similar. That money flowed back into majors. We had a major run, but completely different context. So
the thing is that, just to reflect upon kind of like the meme coins, and you know, obviously we look for trends, we look for narratives, and we look for, more importantly, the flow of liquidity. And I think a lot of this meme coin stuff is, it's almost, I get the feeling that it's almost like a boredom thing. Like there's almost like, and it ties in very nicely with like the correlation versus the decorrelation. And I almost feel like there's still a large part of this crypto community that really does crave the independence and the carnage and the casino behavior. And it's like, I like look at meme coins, and that's what I see. Like, I mean, we reported Pepe in our newsletter at 500K market cap. Obviously, wow. I faded it. Obviously, I faded it. You know, like, obviously, like, fuck that shit, you know? But then, like, you know, and then I get Dan who comes up to me and he's like, dude, I wrote about this in the newsletter. Remember? Yeah, I remember, but I told you it was shit. And he's like, how do you feel now? And I'm like, well, obviously, I feel like the opportunity was staring at me in the face. But that's what I think people really want, is that they want that, like, complete, like, disconnect, the complete, like, independence from all of the stuff that we're obviously making sense of here. And I think that's why we'll always have that aspect of just meme coins, carnage, and it makes no sense. I mean, there's some brilliant projects out there. I mean, we cover them all the time, and they're like sitting at like 5-10 million market cap, and they like really are doing cool shit. And then you've got this thing that's got absolutely zero value beyond the mania, and it's sitting at 500 mil.
Well, it's like it's just a fractal of like how things go viral outside of the market anyway. It's like the dumbest fucking video will gain the most attention. And it might not appeal to your senses at all. You might be like, I don't want any part of that. But there's a whole cohort of people that are, you know, resharing it and talking about it, and it doesn't make any sense, but it's stupid, honestly, and it lights a wildfire. And that's, you know, that's meme coins, and that's why I can't get behind them, because I try to make too much sense of a lot of things. And there's honestly not much sense behind them other than just a bunch of animal spirits, you know, just herd behavior. And it's a large part of it. And I'm like a more technical guy. And yeah, I know my place though. So at least I don't lose money in them, but I miss out on like 99% of them.
Yeah, I miss out on 100% of them. I never get it right with those, so I just avoid it, because the strategy with the casino is that you take 0.1 ETH and then you just bet on pretty much what seems like an option, and all it takes for me is like 5 bad bets and I'm done. But you need to be prepared to take 50, not just 5. And that's where I fail miserably. It's kind of like I've got to be making the right decision. I mean, I played poker for 3 years professionally. And poker's only about one thing, dude, and that's about making the right decisions most of the time. And if you're throwing 0.1 ETH at anything, you're not making the right decisions.
Right. Yeah. Now but it's like the casino for people that don't have, I guess, they have small amount of money and they want to punt and land on something that, wins big. I guess a little bit more, I don't know. Like I said, I've participated, but I always sell like way too early. So it's not, I sold way too early enough times to realize like, all right, I only have so much attention to go around. This is a place where it's just sucking my attention for no reason. On-chain stuff for me is not, I'm not big into trading on chain or looking for gems. I know my place. Like I'm too old now to change.
The thing is that there is kind of like this disagreement that I have with myself, in that I'm very good at picking the spot positions in up and coming protocols. So like very good at identifying relevance, practicality, and delivery of that relevance and practicality, and then making the call, making the bet, and potentially doing the 100x's. Like being very good at that. Like that's definitely my strength. Like the short term stuff, leverage kind of stuff, I do it just for the fun of it. Like I do it because it's something that I mean I'm learning stuff, but I'm definitely net negative over time. There's no doubt about it. So am I getting better at it? Hell no. Do I have the discipline to get better at it? Hell no. Even though, and I want to chat about kind of like your educational content and the stuff that you've put out there, and kind of like your focus. But anyways, it's kind of like, even though I absorb all this information and appreciate all the information, ultimately, like you say, like I've discovered what my strengths are. I'm going to capitalize on those. And then, sure, I'll see the trains passing by. I won't get caught up or the shiny objects, and I'll just continue doing what I'm good at. I'm yet to learn that, by the way, but I'll get there eventually. Your educational content, you guys, you and a mate of yours and a partner had, it was the Blackroots stuff, eh? So you guys had this incredible course. I mean, I've done the content. It's fucking insane. If I'll put the link in this video to the viewers and the listeners who aren't familiar with it. That was when I first got introduced to you. I mean, we spoke about it the last time we had you on, and obviously it's been really cool to see you kind of like take on this project, because I mean, I see it as kind of like this project of yours that you've taken on, and I wanted to just kind of like interrogate like what the motivation is behind that. Is it kind of like a bit about you kind of developing your discipline around what it is that you're teaching? Where are you going with it? Because I know that you want to kind of like extrapolate and expand upon what you guys originally did.
So I don't know exactly where I'm going with it. I just know that if I keep up at it, that I'll give myself a better opportunity to turn it into something if I wanted to. We created Blockroots. This is like 4 or 5 years ago now. And we originally were charging for a course on market profile and order flow. It was like ridiculously cheap compared to every other course. It's like $49 for the course. It was like, I think 100 videos or 100 hours plus a video, finished product, and other similar courses on the same material are like 1,000 and up. But we figured like we have to charge for this. And I think initially we were thinking, okay, so, maybe we'll have a lot of people join because we're pricing it low, whatever. It was stupid. at the end of the day, because we gave it away for free, right? So we transitioned to a free model because it was a bear market. And I had a lot of people that were asking me constantly about the material. So it went from, a couple people asking and then me just giving them the course for free. So starting to realize like, okay, if I give enough people the course for free, people are going to be paying for it while they talk to the people that are getting it for free. I have to just give it for free to everybody.
Yeah.
So, we did that. I don't know how long ago that was now that we made it free. But then recently I created the Discord. I honestly think like, I just like teaching sometimes. Like it gives me a little bit of trading is not a very positive thing for the world. I mean, you could start making arguments about it being positive sum in the long run, negative sum in the short run in PvP, providing liquidity and stability to global markets through facilitating transactions and helping keep markets in working smooth order. But that's all kind of bullshit. Like, that's not why I trade. I trade to make money. So there's not a whole lot of like fulfillment that I get, I think, from trading. And I think the times where I'm able to, and you got to remember, like, I'm as a big account now on Twitter, getting hit left and right by people in DMs and in messages. And there's a lot of stuff like, I find that like, I'll get a simple question. I'll kind of scoff like, man, can you just use Google? And then I'll think like, no, some of these people, honestly, as stupid as it sounds, like some of these people, like they look up to me and I don't want to just write them off when they're like maybe going through a point in their life where they're about to get over a hump and through a milestone and they just need kind of like someone to reach out and get them past something or just give them 5 seconds of their day. So I enjoy like taking the time to do live streams and hop in the Discord from time to time. And then I get kind of burnt out from that. So then I go to this place where I'm like, okay, how can I satisfy that and still give back rather than being available 24/7, which is like, if you're in a Discord, I put the Discord together, I filled it with a bunch of stuff and I said, listen, I'm not going to be here to babysit. I'm just going to fill this from time to time with things I think are really valuable and it's a good source for you. But then I'll spend more time in Discord, more time on live streams, and I'll get tired of that. And then it gets me to this place where I think, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make another series of pre-recorded content. This will be something where I, dedicated a little bit of time to it. Cause it's not like this stuff takes much. I enjoy sitting at the computer and, spending time trading as it is. So putting together a couple of recorded sessions of my trading is not much work, right? It's just a matter of clicking the record button and narrating as I'm trading. But that's what I'm kind of doing now. I'm working on this new series for YouTube. Again, it'd be completely free, like no charge. It'll be probably 10 videos. Who knows? It'll probably be like 10 minutes long each. Nothing major. But again, this is something that really just allows me to give back. That's something that I've always enjoyed. And then also not answer questions as much. If you hit me up in a DM, I could be friendly, but then say, hey, like I put this together. Like, you got to like take the next step on your own. I can't hold your hand and make you a trader. That's not, I definitely don't have the time to do that. But what I do have time to do is I spent, maybe 10 hours, 20 hours of my time making this little series. Take it like it's free, and then don't just watch this and think you're going to get anywhere. Try to consume as much content as you can. But I think this is pretty decent. So this is what I got. I like doing that shit. Like, honestly, it doesn't, people might say like, oh, does it get in the way of your trading? I guess not yet. I also have, like I said, I've been on my own now for years. I've been trading now for going on 17 years. I do quite well for myself. I don't have aside from having a schedule, being a parent and enforcing some form of routine in my life, there's a lot of free time that I have, so if I don't give back, I'll feel kind of like a bum. So that's really it. It's not a whole lot. I don't have anything big planned besides that, beyond that. But I know that when I do that, it'll probably be like another 6 months where I come up with something else. But me and Rager actually are, the whole time in the last year, we've been working on something that hasn't come to market yet. So that'll hopefully be released. I've said it a couple times now. It's a lot of content. I don't want to say too much. It's not content that I'm creating. It's not a token. It's not anything like that. but it is something that we think will be really useful. And that's just taking some time. But again, I don't want to spill anything because we don't have any competitors yet. But once you say something in the universe, that's all it takes. But
all it takes, how do you feel about kind of like the evolution of crypto, just coming back to, obviously the correlation side of things, that's quite a practical thing, but more from a philosophical kind of like human element. How do you think crypto has changed, particularly in the last, I'd say 5 years, say 2018, from that last bear market to, obviously being in the current one at the moment and what's transpired over the year? Do you see much difference in the way that people have behaved and kind of like come to terms with like all the craziness, or do you think it's just more of the same?
I mean, it's always a mix, right? There's pockets of people that have changed massively, and there's pockets of people that haven't changed at all. I think in terms of like bigger picture, because it's not something I talk about too much, and if I do talk, I should be more clear about the timeframes I'm talking within. I think bigger picture, it's never been more clear that there is a growing place for crypto, regardless of like all of the FUD and all of the regulatory attacks. These are things that are going to happen at the bottom anyway. It should have been anticipated after our last bull market. It's a necessary cleansing in some ways, but I think the case for the future of crypto has never been more clear when you have everything taking place with banks. Originally, when the United States was putting sanctions on other countries, there is something to be said for you being able to transact, take control of your capital in a way that is not, under the purview or constant surveillance, even though the blockchain is very easily surveillable. Without those intermediaries that are currently in place from sort of the old system. It's going to take a really long time, but I do think that we're on the cusp of something major in terms of where crypto fits in this future arc. And there's another big thing happening right now as well, though, and I think it's probably going to rob some attention from crypto, and that's AI specifically. But in terms of just its role, I speak a lot to Bitcoin and ETH. I think it's never been more clear that there is a very significant place in the future for these types of things. I don't know anything about like the importance of NFTs in the future. That's not something I spend too much time on. I don't know anything about the specific protocols, or I don't want to say I don't know anything. I don't know enough about specific protocols and their roles in the future, but I do know that something that is hard money like BTC and ETH definitely have a place. So,
well, I think Ryan, the fact that you are mentioning the fact that there is a role to be played by protocols is adding tremendous credibility to your statement around Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and for for someone who engages with protocols on a daily basis, wanting content to be created on behalf of these protocols and speaking to what they're doing, it's insane. Like, it's just completely insane. Like, the whole LSD narrative around Ethereum is just, it's the next thing, and it's just another layer upon another layer that's coming in and just providing more relevance and more functionality to what blockchain has to offer. And I love that, and I was just curious to kind of like get your perspective around your interaction, your kind of like, your hands in the sand kind of thing. In terms of the players that you've kind of like been on this journey with, because, you've been around for a while, how would you say that has kind of like developed around individuals? Have you seen like people come and go? Have you seen the same people kind of just singing the same tune consistently, or is it just been like a mixed bag of pretty much everything? People changing, people losing the plot. I mean, what is your perception around the people in the space?
I mean, I think after this past, we're going back towards November now, so it's more than 6 months. This bear market was really trying, right? There were a lot of people that were completely disheartened. I'd say disillusioned by what happened. and definitely lost the plot for good reason. It was difficult to hang on when FTX blew up, and a good amount of people that were longtime players in this market were completely wiped out, right? So they were kind of just taken out of the market forcefully, by someone who was kind of, what you would assume was one of your own. Yeah, I've seen the same faces, I feel like, on CT since I've been here since 2016, 2017. Seen a lot of newer faces as well, that are definitely going to have to go through that same learning experience, I would say, trial by fire, that this market offers in a very short amount of time. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that I'm so focused on like my personal life right now that I actually pay less attention to these things. But a lot of the people that were diehards that I've been associated with are they're definitely they have stronger feelings now than they did earlier. So yeah, I think that you've emboldened people that were diehards, and you've also really tested the belief systems of people that have proclaimed themselves to be diehards. You've, over time in the last year, made a lot of Bitcoin maxis look really stupid. Yeah, it's a bear market. Like, it brought out a lot of it brought out a lot of the true colors in the market. So
yeah, I think the for the last 12 months, I think the real kind of like test has been put out there, where kind of like the pretenders have walked away, like you don't see them anymore. And then when we do get like a bit of a movement in the market towards the upside, you kind of hear the voices, and it's quite difficult to keep track. Not that we have better things. Obviously, we have better things to do than to keep track, but it's interesting to see how it all changes. Even though, like, I think like January was like a really interesting month from that perspective. January, February, we had like a really positive flow, and there was a lot of liquidity coming into the market. I noticed like things changed, and I almost was like, oh no, I'm not really ready for this yet. Like, there's just, because what I found is, like, over the last 12 months, I found like I've really built great relationships with people, yourself included, where there's like, I see you, dude, like, I see you too. And it's like, cool, I see you doing your thing. And it's like, there's respect. And you like pick up all these people. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like cross posting, and people are trying to engagement from. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's pretty cool, because it's like we're starting to learn what the value of interaction is, and those people that are here, like we're here, and we kind of like, we like trying to find our place in this whole thing. And I think that's what bear markets really do afford the opportunity, is to build those relationships, and then more importantly, to test them, to test the resolve. Like, is it really like, are you just LARPing, or are you for real? Because that's always the question. Like, you'll post an image like of like your lounge. I love your lounge. I love the area out on your river. And I know it's real. I know that's who you are. But a lot of dudes will post something like that, and it's just bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's total bullshit, and you just don't know that. And that's what I like about the bear market, because it really does test the resolve of what the truth is, and then what you're really made of. Like, you're at the fucking lowest of your low. Who are you, sir? And that's what I love about it, and what I've really enjoyed about the last 12 months.
That's definitely the case. Like, I mean, I probably didn't pick up on what you're asking clearly enough, but you've washed out a lot of like the garbage, I think, to a fair degree. But I think they'll come back like with higher prices. There was a group of, I don't want to name anybody specifically, but I remember when I first got involved in CT specifically, because I had bought BTC and ETH before so I had a Twitter account that was active since like 2010. But I created my crypto Twitter account either mid 2017 or end of 2017. It says it on my Twitter. But there was a whole group of people that I think I couldn't find now if I tried to look for them. And they were only just part of the bull market. They were completely LARPy, kind of carnival barking type of, a carnival barking type of crew. I think, yeah, bear markets wash those people out, but higher prices will bring them back, but at the end of the day, like, real recognizes real. Like, if you've been here through the peaks and the troughs, you remember who you were kind of suffering with in the trenches. And yeah, I definitely can't say that I had a bad bear market experience. Like, it's not my first rodeo, so that's good. But I definitely recognize, like, who fell off, who was only here for, their own kind of selfish reasons, who was, kind of bullshitting the entire time. You see that because people got to go back to work, so.
Yeah, we've had the best year. I mean, from a blockmate's perspective, for me personally, like, I can't remember the last time I think the last time I had this much fun was when I was at university.
Yeah.
Which was a long time ago. And between now and then, it's been hard work, hard grind, raising kids. Sure, there's been amazing moments, but this has been this non-stop, insane journey, like learning from guys like you, and like there's a real sense of like wonder, dude. Like in the space, like every day is different. I walk into a meeting, I'm always the oldest dude in the room, and I'm always the guy learning the most, and it's
Yeah.
just like, I really feel like a kid in a candy store, like when I sat down and I engaged with your content, which is brilliant, by the way. Like, I can't
Thanks, man.
speak highly enough about the content that you guys put together. And it's just like, it's so fucking easy as well. Like, you sit down and you're a kid in a candy store, and you don't have to be a great trader. You don't have to be like this experienced, or know it all about the market. You can sit down, you can listen to your content and the way you present your videos, and it's like you have like 25 aha moments in one video, and it's like, that's the true value, right? And that's what we're trying to replicate. That's what you're doing. You've done it, and now you're going to go and do it again. And it's like, if we can do that, imagine what other people can do, and like people that are coming into the space. And I've loved the last year. Hey? It's just been fucking insane. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if you found something to love during the shitty period, I mean, I think you'll be twice as happy, if not 3 times as happy, during the good times. So
yeah, I mean, I've been through it. We did it in 2021, 22. I mean, it was insane, but it was like I didn't sleep.
yeah, yeah, we were all kind
Made a
of
whole,
like begging for this at some point.
yes, I mean, that's what I was saying, is that it's really important to like take the time, recognize what's going on around you, and like who's doing what, connect with them, because it's like, you know what it is. It's like there are all these old accounts, like accounts that I really like enjoy. I mean, you even had a disagreement with the duck the other day. I don't know what his problem was, by the way. Like, I think he's got great narrative. I think he's got great lessons to teach, and it's like, he's never engaged with me, and he probably never will, but that's fine as well. But it's like, I almost see where like those kind of accounts come from. You know what? Another really amazing account who provides great educational content is Crypto Cred. I mean, the guy's insane, like brilliant. Like, you and him are very similar in terms of like what the mission is, like in terms of the content, very different, but very similar in like, I've got something that I want to say, it has relevance and it can really help people, and I'm going to say it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, his content is amazing, but it's like you've got this group and they're almost like their own clique, and they've kind of like corralled around themselves, and they don't really engage with anybody outside that circle. And I find it's a little bit like, it's a bit sad though, because it's like, I think they've got a lot to offer outside of their circle, and they need to actually, like, if they are watching this, guys, there's a couple of us out here, you must say hi sometime, like, it's not just all about you.
Yeah, there's
and
a lot of clicks.
Yeah, a lot of clicks, yeah. And I think that I was hoping the bear market would kind of like get rid of it, but in many ways it kind of like forced even more so, around that. But there are a lot of the cool kids that are like that. But then there's also like a lot of cool kids who step outside, and they like, I've got a lot of really cool, like, made some really cool contacts on CT that have really helped perspective, like really helped from an educational perspective as well, and trading as well. I mean, there's some fucking good traders out there. Who are your favorite traders? Like people who do well, who like just do positive EV stuff out there.
My favorite traders, shit. As far as like CT traders go, or just traders in general?
Traders in general and CT traders, if anything comes to mind.
I mean, I have like a few people that I follow that are smaller now that are definitely on the up and up. Runner XBT is good.
Yeah, he is
Adam
good.
Abe Trade, he's great. Just like a real technical guy, no bullshit. Yeah, I mean, like there's, I honestly, I probably am like so out of the loop now with like following other people, and I hate to set for it to sound like this, but I've like kind of stepped back a little bit from focusing so much on consuming content on Twitter. Like most of the time you see me tweeting, I'm just like, this is a thought, I'm going to pop this out there, but I'm focused on either the little one or the market in front of me. I created a watch list of people, and I'll probably end up perusing that to remind myself. I found myself, like, honestly, through the bear market, getting back to following a lot more TradFi traders, because there is like I only have so much patience for like the stupid nonsensical behavior in CT that kind of just becomes a norm. And I kind of tried to steer away from it. I ended up muting a lot of people that I my respect as a trader, but I don't know. There's too much riffraff, like just a lot of immaturity that I don't think I have time in my life for right now. I'm looking at my list right now, just people that obviously, I'll give you a quick run through of people that I think are definitely worth following. Fofty is a really good one. So Fofty O'Erny, he's new. Oxhams. Who else we have? My friend Mood, in Silico always.
Yeah, in Silico is great.
Awawat. So Awawat's great, momentum trader. I mean, there's a lot of garbage on CT, but there's also a lot of talent out there. I'm just seeing if there's anyone I'm missing. It's like it's the mainstays, honestly.
What do you think of EXO and his counterpart?
Oh, SE?
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely different people, but
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
I've been a fan of theirs for a long time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they definitely like have a bearish overtone always, but
Yes.
I think like it's a lot of it is to play into their
Yeah.
crowd now. Like they know they're kind of rubbing people the wrong way by being bearish. Even if they're, it's like they will lay out both sides of it, right? And sort of articulate, all possibilities, right? Trades that they'll take on the long side and short side, but they definitely do, they like to stick the knife in whenever the market is moving down. But great traders.
Yeah, they are. Capo a LARP or for real?
Who? Oh,
Capo, yeah.
I mean, listen, he seems like he was a guy at a crossroads that instead of doubling down, should have just kind of taken his medicine and said, I was wrong. I don't, if you are, if you're an actual trader, like that like you're wrong a lot. Like it's not even a discussion worth having. Anyone who's saying like they don't, fuck trades up on a monthly basis and have standout losses and and just winning all the time is just full shit. Like we know that that's completely BS. So the point of that is like losses are welcomed. It's just part of the game. It's like a baseball player who came up to you in a bar and was like, "Hey man, I've never struck out. I've never not hit and been on base." You'd be like, "No, you're successful if you hit 300%, 400%, right? In between that, and that's not even, you're out more times than not." So I think that he should have just said he was wrong. Like instead, now he's doubling down. It's kind of, it's probably for engagement. I don't know. Maybe he's going to come out with like a paid group or something soon. So
Ryan, in terms of like you've been quite bullish for a while now, and I think that's been one of the really good plays that you've made since probably, I think it was around 18K, because you always said I'd much rather get involved if I'm kind of like 20% into the trend as opposed to trying to catch samurai sword that's falling
Yeah.
straight towards me. And I think you were at around 18 and a half, and you said, listen, this thing's going to get like a lot better and it's going to keep going up. Where do you think we are right now, just bringing everything kind of like to a close now in terms of how we looked at 2017, 2018, how it all played out, how it's all changed, and the correlation and all the rest of it? Do we have kind of like the traditional markets playing out at the moment, where we are going to hit the top and then go straight back down again? Where do you think this goes kind of like over the next 6 to 12 months? And don't worry, we won't hold you to it.
No,
It's like,
just fine.
I
I think
it's
I don't think it's going to be that eventful the next 6 months. I think like
yeah.
big range, choppy range. There's no real reason for the markets to make new all-time highs right now. I know that sounds ridiculous, like, but in terms of just levels of liquidity in markets, overall risk taking appetite, I don't think it's there right now. I don't think it's the right context. I think we're just setting up, honestly, like for more of the same in terms of how the cycles have played out. You know, not specifically being carbon copies of prior cycles, but we get towards the halving for Bitcoin and the same sort of, you know, the same thing takes place because of the way that the overall supply is affected, right? So I think that kind of plays out. I think that it's kind of a meme, but it's worked so far. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think more importantly, that kind of probably lines up with just better macro conditions overall. We've been so focused on everything the Fed says and does the last year, and I think 2024 into 2025 we're not anymore. I think after today's FOMC, we'll probably just start talking more about the debt limit and then find something else to focus on. I don't see there being a major catalyst for any markets to make new all-time highs this year. So it's a bit of in between. I'm ready to trade, hopefully more volatility. I don't think we're going to move sideways in a tight range for long, but I don't think we're making any new all-time highs anytime soon. I think the macro bottoms are in. But that doesn't mean, it's a one-way trip from here. So I
Never is.
think 2024, 2025 is a lot better.
And the halving, do you think is that meme gonna play out, or do you think it's gonna be? Yeah.
I think it's the strongest narrative that crypto has ever had. It's been the biggest one, the most important one. And
it has delivered.
What's that?
It has delivered.
It has delivered. It makes
time.
structural changes to something that is already low float and is very reflexive. So it only benefits more reflexivity to the upside. Absent some kind of major cataclysmic event, some absolute shock that we're not prepared for and can't even conceptualize now, I think it's just going to do more of the same. Unless it's like World War III and, which it kind of is right now, but it's just different kind of war. I think it's the same thing's going to play out. I think it'll pick up steam and then it'll become more or less self-fulfilling in the same way that it has been prior. And because of the way that the overall mechanics of BTC change, I think that'll be like adding fuel onto a fire that's already lit.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think that we've seen the end of central exchanges kind of like having their shit show? I mean, obviously there's been a lot of talk around Binance, or do you think that's just pure FUD?
No, I think it's coming. I think there's more to come. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's more to come. We'll play the game now where this happened many times. The main venues, they lock down, people find other venues, they trade there for a little while, but it feels like this is the first time where major regulatory bodies have really been focused on the market. So that cat and mouse chase is going to, I think, accelerate and intensify. So yeah, I don't think we've seen the worst of that yet. I think what it will do is provide a really good buying opportunity. A 10% day, a 15% down day, very quick recovery. We got that out of the way with, because now we're just going to be pricing in the fact that there's nothing else that's really, that really should be a cause for concern that we could at least think of. Obviously, black swans you can't think of, but I think you get those things out of the way and it's kind of more or less, I hate to say, up only from there.
Do you think that, I mean, I know that you've kind of like expressed your, I don't know whether it's dissatisfaction or what it might be, but like you said that you're not big on the on-chain trading aspect of things. Would you use a decentralized exchange that essentially had the liquidity, the speed, and the
Oh yeah,
functionality that a central
100%.
exchange?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. I
Mm.
definitely want to be on multiple things. I don't want to be,
Yeah.
you know, uh, isolated and concentrated on one particular area of this market for a long time. So
Mm.
that sounds better than being on a bunch of shady centralized
Correct.
exchanges.
Yeah.
Not to say shady, because some of these exchanges are just trying to start a business, and
Mm.
it's like you can't be seen as a good exchange until you're popular, until the popularity brings that liquidity. And until then, it's like you can't have the liquidity, and then you're going to be kind of cast outside as you know, you're going to be considered an outcast in terms of exchanges because you know don't have liquidity. There's not a lot of traders there. It's like, well, yeah, that happens when it happens, because as soon as some of the major people in the market move to a new exchange, that sends a signal to everyone else. They move to the exchange, and then, well, obviously at that point it becomes better because everyone's trading on it, right?
Yeah.
So, but I would
Correct.
absolutely trade on a DEX.
Mm. I've been trading on a couple. Liquidity is an issue, but from a user experience, I think in many ways it's better. It's like can see what's going on, and
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it. And I think there's some really big players coming in, and I think the markets from that perspective is going to be very different. I think come next bull run, it's going to be really
yeah,
cool. I
I
think
agree.
we're in for a great ride.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Cool, Ryan. I don't want to keep us longer because I think we've had a good chat. I think we'll do more of these. Always enjoy chatting.
Awesome, man.
I think yeah, it's been really cool to connect with you again. I know that yeah, life's busy, dude, and it's like and
It's great though.
I mean we're creating content here, but it's also like there's also selfish requirement. It's like it's cool to connect with people and we don't really get a chance to do that. I mean, if I
I
lived
agree.
down the road, I'd probably
I
come
agree.
around and talk shit. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I
100%.
live in Cape Town, dude. You live in New York. It's kind of
I
like two
know.
different.
Oh man. Well, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
dude. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure, and thanks for coming on, dude. We really
Of
do
course, man.
appreciate it.
Anytime.
And